what is the role of AI in the context of military conflicts?
Well, that's a huge question, Michael. Thanks for asking it. I think in order to approach this issue, we first must realize where we are in the history of warfare. So we are in a point, just like in the Great War 100 years ago, where fires, precision munitions, have a dominance over the ability to maneuver in the battlefield. We've been at the end, at the dying phases of this era, where conventional air forces and conventional central intelligence corps had the best capabilities to identify targets and influence the battlefield. But that has ended. If you go back just 2 decades ago, if you remember the American invasion to Iraq, so you could see as the Americans moved into Iraq, how the battlefield has changed, how the Iraqi divisions left their tanks, and the battlefield has transformed into this many dispersed 1, 2, 3 persons sort of battlefield. And this is where we are now. Firepower has dispersed the rivals and make them disappear in the cities, in the woods, in the terrain. So coming back to the AI question, 2 things highlight themselves. The first is how tough it is to find the targets. And the second is how tough it is to survive, because both sides, all sides actually have the direct and indirect precision munitions, long-range fire capabilities. And the second thing is that the conventional air force, air supremacy, and central intelligence capabilities do not have the sufficient capability anymore to win this battlefield. So the pressure comes down again to the tactical level. Now, I'm an officer of the IDF. We've been relying on very central Iran capabilities for the last 3 decades. And we now find ourselves in a sort of war in Gaza, in Lebanon, where again, the demand on the tactical units on the field is very tough, very high-tempoed. And coming back to your question about AI, again, in the last 3 decades, communications, controls, computers in the tactical level, which was less dominant, as I've said, in those decades, still commanders in the tactical level had a very tough time absorbing all the data flowed into them.
Sorry, and it's a very similar situation is in the air regarding to F-35, because I think some kind of AI is strongly needed in the machine, because it's some kind of future machine, and the man itself isn't literally able to process all amount of data. Am I right?
Absolutely. So we're in this time of history where the man is the bottleneck. It's just like my students in the university. So here we are after 3 decades of internet, and data is available for them as my generation could not even dream of. Yeah. And finally they came out with the ChatGPT thing.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So
exactly.
So we're kind of mad, angry, because it makes them lazy. But let's come again to the combat situation.
Thank you for recalling me memories about me visiting a library all the time, and this young generation is just sitting in front of the computer, and as you said, use for instance ChatGPT and all data right on the spot online. Am I right? It's
absolutely
advantages.
So regarding my students, I wish they would read some more and do some less GPT. But regarding the guy in the combat vehicle, I need him first to survive and then to be effective.
Yeah.
And here's where AI comes in to solve the bottlenecks that has been accumulating for the last 30 years. The dispersed targets, finding them, enabling 360 degrees situational awareness.
For instance, Iron Vision, right? Is there a system, Iron Vision?
Yes, of course, Iron Vision and the systems you can see here on the combat vehicles, like the new CSG combat vehicle with the 360 degrees situational awareness. Now, let's dive into that, because I own a Tesla. I have a 360 degrees situational awareness in my Tesla, but it's not the same thing. You see, driving a combat vehicle into combat does not leave you spare time to just watch 6 cameras on 6 different screens. Actually, the whole point is to make the commander deal with the mission, not with the cameras, not with the screens, and also its soldiers and its turret and so on and so forth. So we are actually freeing the combat soldiers to do what they were supposed to do. In the last 20 years, they found themselves more and more occupied on doing things that they were not meant to do.
So they can much more easier concentrate on doing their work, and they're literally saving their lives. Am I right? Because they're not disrupted or disturbed. It's better word by processing the data. Am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. But this is just the first very basic level of AI influence on the battlefield.
Yeah.
This is merely surviving and locating targets. Now, let's push it one step forward. The battlefield have been dispersed. The enemy, in order to survive, has made themselves stealth. How do they make themselves stealth? First, they disperse to small combat units, no brigades, no platoons, 3 guys.
We can see it on Ukraine battlefield.
Of course, and you can see it in Gaza and in Lebanon.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Of course. And then they use the terrain, whatever the terrain is, whether it's forests, woods, mountains, and urban terrains. Urban terrains especially have... Now, how do you deal?
It's your topic, yeah? It's our topic.
Yes, yes.
It's very hard to fight in that kind of battlefield.
And so, whatever the terrain is, it's all about being not in the line of sight of your enemy. And this is where AI comes in. Now, it's not just the AI. I mean, we are in this era in time where everyone can have drones, multiple, large quantities of them, large ones, small ones. As for now, the use of drones is basically for another sort of direct munitions or as an eye in the sky. But basically...
You're observing, yes.
Yeah, an observation, a vertical point. Mm-hmm. But most militaries still find themselves, with a drone activator, 2 guys team, flying a drone, opening one sensor in the sky and watching the screen and telling someone else, like the artillery, we found a target. What we have is time-consuming, man-consuming, and my unit is waiting for me to look around the corner before it goes. So actually what we have is another burden on the tactical unit.
I see.
But imagine I now have multiple drones and they're flying around me automated.
Of course, the big topic nowadays on a modern battlefield. Not only one, but the group of drones.
A swarm.
Exactly.
A band of vertical points in the sky. Now imagine I now in possession of multiple sensors in the sky and on the ground. Each of them see a different angle of the battlefield. That this is where we are today. And trying to make one whole picture of the multiple sensors is no one has really cracked yet. And now put in the AI.
Are we talking about the situation awareness?
So we're talking about a situational awareness on steroids. So now we are in a potential capacity to peel off the houses,
Yeah.
the trees, the urban terrain, and just discover the people hiding in this terrain.
Like an X-ray, am I right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
really
That's a very good analogy, like an X-ray. Now, of course, it's not an X-ray, it's not a magic,
Yeah.
but being able to look at the battlefield from multiple angles and multiple kind of sensors, everyone is sharing. All my sensor is sharing their imagery with the other sensors and being processed very quickly. I now can, there's this guy that moved there 3 minutes ago, he will probably end up here. And so the other sensor is trying to locate in the next point.
In your opinion, should be the final decision always be made by a human? Nowadays, it's I don't know if it's half and half or it depends on human at the end. So that's a final decision.
Well, the downside with AI is that it's a black box. You don't really know what's going on inside. So let's go back to my students. The final decision, whether they give me the paper that ChatGPT prepared for them, is their decision. And they're taking some risk.
Thank you.
Okay? So I think not just because of the ethics of war, which is crucial, but also in order to prevent mistakes, combat mistakes, like shooting my own forces.
Eran, sorry for interrupting, but maybe let's ask you another question. So tell me just simple pros and cons of AI nowadays. I think it's a very good question for people in general, because we are professional media, but let's talk to most of the people, yeah, the general people. So what are the most pros and cons of AI in the military sector nowadays?
So thank you for that question, Michael. So the pros we've talked about a bit, and we actually have not exploited them yet. And the pros are not all just like X-raying the battlefield with multiple angles. Imagine that you also conserve and accumulate the data for the last week of the battle. That means you have more knowledge to predict the patterns of the enemy, so you can deploy your sensors and shooters accordingly. So that's a massive pro. That's like projecting into the future what your enemy will do, predicting his moves. So these are the pros sides of AI, and we can go on about it. The downside with it, of course, is the fact that the computer does not tell you where his predictions come from. Even if he did, and they don't, just following his method will render it ineffective. It's all about the tempo and making decisions as simple as can be. At the end of the day, the solution for this tension is for the commander to have the final say. As I've said, just like with my students. But the thing is, like all the time in history, okay, armies compete each other.
Yeah.
No one really has the capability.
Wants to share data, am I right? Want to share the experiences, am I right?
No one has the privilege to not race for this capability, because the other guy will get it, will own it. And just think of it, we share the same side. We're Western democracies. We want to preserve the international law and order, and there's the guys that want it the other way around. What is our edge? It's not about masses. We can't produce masses. We don't want to be at war. We are democracies. The edge we can bring to the battlefield, the edge that actors like Russia, Iran are still far away from and are less potentially to possess in the same quality that we can, is the smartness, is the high-tech complexes of technology and combating tactical units.
Mhm.
Iranians have great drones. They have
Sorry, what?
the Iranians. They produce drones,
Yeah.
and they sell it to the Russians.
Of course.
Yet
Shahids.
the Shaheeds, yes, but they're not swarming. They're not sharing.
Yeah.
So this is
Just supplying. Yeah.
they're not sharing, the imagery with one another. Then they don't process data as they fly in the Ukrainian sky. This is the edge the West can bring to the battlefield, and we need it. That's the qualitative edge.
Yeah.
Because the West will never have the masses and the time for attrition warfare like the other side.
Yeah.
We need to be decisive, so we need to be smart.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. I think in the first question you answered to multiple, but that's a big pro. So thank you very much. So how much rely? Okay, let's skip this and let's go straight to the question. You are a member of advisory board of Axon Vision. Am I right?
Yes.
And tell me something, Eran, something more about the cooperation between the RETIA, particularly a company part of CSG, and the Axon Vision.
So I think, talking about Axon Vision, but AI capabilities as a whole, it's a huge potential. Now we've talked about the tactical potential of it. Let's talk about the industry and defense tech potential of it. Military projects used to be huge. They lasted for decades and ended up with,
Uncertain result. No.
not only huge uncertainty, but at the end of the day, you had an aged capabilities at the end of the line.
Yeah, because it took so much time.
That's hardware. Military hardware is
Getting old and old. It's like a dog hunting his own tail. Am I right? You know that?
Yeah. And there's Norman Augustine used to be the CEO of Boeing and someone big in the Pentagon back in the 20th century, and he wrote this book of laws for industry, for military industry, and the Augustine's law number 16 was he followed the price of the first generation airplane to what was going to be the fifth generation airplane. And he observed that in the fifth generation airplane, the whole defense budget of the United States will be able to purchase one airplane a year. And so this airplane will have to timeshare between the Navy and the Air Force. Okay, so that's the dynamics of military hardware. Yeah. And now comes in the software. And if you go to the Axon Vision product, you can actually, with some small sensors and cameras, in the first step, upgrade the combat vehicle, the existing combat vehicle. And then, if you touch with this magic a couple of APCs, you now have not just a unit of APCs, but a teaming of different combat vehicles who are sharing their combat view automatically.
Much more powerful.
Effortlessly.
Exactly.
Much more powerful. Now,
and everything's happening online. Yeah,
exactly. And then you go to the vertical dimension and so on and so forth. Yeah. Now, all this happens with just, the adding of some software and sensors to the existing and future battlefield vehicles that you are going to purchase. And so we are now in possession of a new kind of defense tech projects, which are relatively cheap, and they grow from the bottom up, and effectiveness is there from the very first dollar that you invest, and the second dollar is a multiplying factor, and the 10th dollar is a new thing.
Yeah, it's called multiplying effect. Yeah, you know,
The multiplying,
the more the better. Yeah.
yes, it's like, you know, in the YouTube, they have these viral effects.
Absolutely.
So you are just
Yeah, you go rolling the snowball. Am I right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a very good explanation. Thank you, Eran. I'm glad and I'm fully satisfied because I have more than I expected, but I was glad to hear it from you because it was. Is there anything you would, but briefly, please, you would like to tell us some extra? I think everything.
I think you have all you've asked
Exactly, Eran. Exactly. So honestly, very nice meeting with you. Thank you very much. Thank you
Another,
very much.
Michael. Thank you so much.